Last week's episode of 1923, Season 2, Episode 5, Only Gunshots to Guide Use, left viewers gutted. The mountain teeth of monsters isn't exactly the calm before the storm. Instead, this is the storm before the storm. Alex is still not in Montana, and neither is Spencer. Whitfield is making life hell for everybody, and throughout the episode, you can tell the big showdown is coming. As Season 2 of 1923 has progressed, the emphasis has been on how brutal both winter and man can be. In Episode 6, the coming of spring is marked by bloodshed and violence rather than any new signs of rebirth. In the mountain teeth of monsters, at least 7 people lose their lives, and as the number grows, it's difficult to avoid wondering how many more may perish before the end of the season. While searching for water in the previous episode, Pete decided to run away when he saw Father Renaud and Marshal Kent. However, Kent pursued him and killed him. The 6th episode of 1923 started with Renaud realizing that Kent was a murderer and a monster who killed Native Americans for his own pleasure. Kent had been chasing his own personal grudge against the town, but Renaud had merely asked for his assistance in order to bring the girl to justice. The priest chose to take up guns against his colleague in order to put a stop to his futile mission, since he could not bear to see any more dead bodies of defenseless men and children. Both of these men were quite malevolent. Their methods of subjugation were simply different. The tone for the remainder of the show is established when Renaud gunned the man down because he didn't agree with Kent's. Yes, there will be a great deal of bloodshed. When McDowell finally heard Spencer's voice on the other end of the line and found out that he was on his way, it was because Marshal Fawcett had called him in the previous episode to get him to vouch for the individual in her custody. In the 6th episode, he hurried to the Dutton Ranch to share his concerns as well as some good news with the family. Due to their extremely loose tongues, McDowell advised Jacob that these switchboard operators may have already told Banner that Spencer was returning. As a result, they might need to escort him out of the train station before Banner or his men could touch him. Jacob asked Zane and Jack to take care of the family while he took some cowboys from the Livestock Commission to spend the next 3 days at Livingston Station until they had safely brought Spencer home because he knew that his nemesis, who had been eyeing his ranch, would kill Spencer as soon as the young Dutton arrived in Montana. Banner's soldiers informed him as news spread that Spencer was a combat hero with a fiery temper. Banner first doubted that a young Dutton could match his power or that of his master, but this soon changed after learning that Spencer was with the 1st Infantry at Argonne, which meant he was probably the only survivor in his battalion. Banner instructed Clyde to organize an army and travel to the train station in order to puncture Spencer Dutton as soon as he got off the train, since he didn't want to take any chances with his ambitious plot to seize the Yellowstone property. The train's ticketmaster attempted to assist Spencer by booking a ticket to Billings out of Sioux Falls in order to get to Montana after learning about the storm and the snowdrift that had blocked the tracks. He will therefore be a little late. Jake was excited to join the battle and left the ranch to meet his uncle at the station, despite Jacob's explicit request that he stay behind and guard the land. Jake encountered Clyde and one of Banner's men in the woods, just as one of the cowboys had cautioned him not to encounter any of Banner's men while traveling. These individuals, who claimed to be agents of the Livestock Commission and wore badges, caused Jake to believe that they were Banner's thugs rather than employees of his uncle, Jacob Dutton. The fact that Kara forewarned Jake's wife, Elizabeth, of a similar incident prior to his death couldn't have happened by accident. She advised her not to be fooled by the expensive cars and clothing. But wolf and humans have more characteristics than any other animal, and humans are still animals. Clyde and his men were the wolves in sheep's clothing in the context of this episode, but Jake, who was too young to comprehend the true nature of evil, fell right into the trap. Jake told them he was close second to Spencer Dutton and was traveling in the same direction because he assumed that Clyde and the other men were going to the train depot to join Jacob as soon as he spotted the badges. But as soon as Clyde learned about the young Dutton, he drew his rifle and killed Jake. Clyde killed Jake as soon as he had the chance, since Banner had instructed his men to spare none of the Duttons. The family may never be able to locate Jake's body or bury his remains, since they would be lying in a ditch somewhere in no man's land. He would probably toss his body into the small refuge on the border that Banner and his men had been shown by Donald Whitfield. Jacob had just mentioned to Kara at the start of the episode that it had been a long time since the dining table was completely occupied. The devil apparently listened to Jacob and sent his demons to hunt down the family, pursuing each member individually. Elizabeth's spirit will undoubtedly be crushed by Jake's death, and she won't be able to live for very long. She will either leave Yellowstone with the baby in her womb, or she will kill herself, like her mother-in-law Emma did when her husband, John Dutton Sr., died. She may live but experience another miscarriage, and then she will move to Boston to live with her mother as she had intended. Whatever the situation, Banner had brutally wiped out John Dutton Sr.'s entire family, and Spencer and his successors would now carry on the family tradition. Teonna and Runs became concerned for Pete when he failed to return for the night and made the decision to chase him down in case he had gotten lost. They were shocked when they eventually located the boy, but he had vanished long before. Runs desired to carry out the final ceremonies for the young man who gave his life to rescue his daughter from the despot Renaud. The father and daughter made the decision to head back home since they didn't want to continue traveling towards Mexico, thinking they were finally safe, but they were completely mistaken. Runs felt there were no more guys hunting for them, so he built a campfire at night. However, just as he was about to do so, Renaud, who was hiding in the bushes, came out and shot Runs, in order to shoot Teonna and spare her soul from eternal damnation. He then leveled his gun at her and pleaded with her for forgiveness of her transgressions. Teonna, however, resisted following his orders. She had done nothing wrong, to be fair. To break her spirit, she only killed those who bothered and attacked her. He attempted to shoot Teonna when she refused to give up, but he ran out of ammunition, so Teonna assaulted him and fatally stabbed him. I believe Teonna will have to make the remaining trip to the Crow Reservation by herself now that Renaud is permanently gone and her father and sweetheart are both dead. Teonna was devastated by Pete's passing and didn't think life had any purpose, but Runs assured her before he passed away that they must live in order to prove their existence to the world. Although the trip home is lengthy, she will probably encounter Marshal Fawcett along the road, who may be able to assist her in getting back in touch with her people. Alex had met the English couple, Hillary and Paul, on the train, and they asked her to come to Winnetka and stay with them until the snowdrift was cleaned out in the previous episode. After Alex told them about her trip thus far at their home, they were moved by her love story and made the decision to assist Alex in finding her long-lost love. Even while it all sounded like a fantastic adventure, things took a somewhat bleak turn as soon as they encountered the bitterly cold winter and the storm that swept the area. Paul offered to travel 1,500 miles and drop Alex off in Emigrant, Montana, so she could finally be reunited with Spencer. The woman behind the counter at the gas station near the conclusion of episode 6 of 1923 had told Alex to abandon their stupid journey and board a train from Sheridan instead, since there would be no more petrol stations along the route. But Alex disregarded her advice, and Paul continued driving only to discover that the gas meter was rapidly falling. Alex was asked to take the blanket and sleep for the night by the pair, but when she woke up the following morning, the sight literally sent shivers down her spine. Paul's body was probably lying down close to the automobile, and Hillary had frozen to death. Indeed, there was no sign of anybody nearby, and their automobile had been partially buried in the deep snowdrift. In other words, only nature could now rescue Alex's life. More precisely, spare her life and allow her to survive so she could be with Spencer again.